show more. 13:11, Claude responded. The first thing Marcus Webb registered was silk. Not the feeling of it, though, that came second cool and expensive against his bare chest. The kind of fabric he'd never owned and never would. The kind that whispered money, power, consequences he couldn't undo. The second thing was perfume. Something dark and floral threaded with warmth clinging to the pillow beside him. It was the same scent from the gala, the same perfume that had made him lean closer when she spoke, made him want to understand how a woman could be so perfectly controlled, and yet so hungry for something real. The third thing was breathing, a slow, quiet rhythm that didn't belong to his 5-year-old daughter. Emma breathed differently, lighter, faster, the way kids do when they're safe in sleep. This breathing belonged to a woman. His eyes opened. The ceiling above him was vaulted, cream-colored, with recessed lighting dimmed to amber. A chandelier hung like a question mark. A goddamn chandelier. He turned his head. Selena Thorne lay on her side facing him, one hand tucked beneath her cheek like a child. Her dark hair fanned across the white pillowcase in a way that looked almost staged, almost editorial. But her mascara was faintly smudged beneath her left eye, and her lips were parted, and she was deeply humanly asleep. The sheet had slipped to her waist. She was wearing nothing above it. Neither was he. Marcus sat up slowly. He pressed the heel of his hand against his forehead. The room was enormous. A suite at the Oak Haven Resort, if the embossed stationery on the nightstand was any indication. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed a pale gray sky over terrace gardens. His slacks were draped over an armchair. Her black dress, the one she'd worn at the corporate gala last night, lay crumpled on the hardwood like a shed skin. His phone was on the dresser. Dead. He remembered the gala, the ballroom, the announcement of new quarterly targets, the way the room had responded to her. Everyone watching Selena Thorne like she was the sun, and they were planets trying not to collide. He remembered the bar afterward, the two of them alone at a corner table, while the rest of this company dissolved into background noise. Her laughing. Actually laughing, not the controlled performative smile she deployed in boardrooms, the warmth of whiskey, the strange disarming ease of talking to someone who listened the way she listened, leaning forward, eyes sharp as if his words were data she intended to use. After that, the memories became impressionist, fragments, the elevator, her hand on his wrist, a conversation that felt like surgery, precise, painful, necessary, something about the cost of never being seen, something about building a life small enough to protect, versus building an empire large enough to disappear inside. Then nothing. He looked at her again. Selena Thorne, age 41, CEO of the Thorne Syndicate, a logistics empire spanning 3 continents. His boss's 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 boss. He was a level 2 data analyst. He made $58,000 a year. His daughter Emma was sleeping at his mother's house in Belfield right now, probably clutching her stuffed rabbit, probably dreaming about something uncomplicated. His heart rate spiked, not from arousal, from fear. She could destroy him with a phone call. The board would side with her. His custody rights, his professional reputation, his carefully constructed stability. All of it could collapse before he finished his coffee, and he had no idea how much he'd revealed. Selena's eyes opened. For exactly 1 second, her expression was unguarded, soft, confused, almost tender. Then recognition hit, and the walls went up so fast Marcus could practically hear the locks clicking into place. She sat up, pulling the sheet to her collarbone. Her jaw tightened. Her gaze swept the room with the efficiency of someone taking inventory of a disaster. His clothes, her clothes, the 2 empty glasses on the credenza, the bottle of Merlot with an inch of wine still in it. "What time is it?" she asked. No greeting, no panic. Just operational. Just CEO. Phone's dead, he said. Based on the light, maybe 7. She pressed her fingers to her temples. The gala ended at 11. The after-party was at the lounge downstairs. I remember being there until 1, maybe later. A silence settled between them. Not awkward, heavier than that. The silence of 2 people assembling a shared puzzle with pieces missing. "Did we?" she began. "I think so," he said. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, the CEO was fully back. "This didn't happen," she said. Marcus nodded once. "Agreed." "I mean it," she continued. And there was something in her voice that wasn't cold. Something underneath the ice. "Not for my sake. Although yes, obviously for my sake. But for yours." She paused. "The board would..." She stopped herself. "You have a daughter." The fact that she knew that surprised him, though it shouldn't have. Selena Thorne was famous for knowing everything about her organization, down to the mailroom rotation schedule. She probably knew Emma's age, her school, the name of her pediatrician. "I do," he said. "Then we agree," Selena said. "We got separate rooms. We attended the same event. That's the extent of it." "That's the extent of it." She held his gaze for a moment longer than necessary. Something moved behind her eyes, a flicker of something that didn't match the boardroom mask. Then she looked away. "I'm going to shower," she said. "I'd appreciate it if you were gone when I come out." "Of course." She rose from the bed, wrapping the sheet around herself with practiced grace. She walked toward the bathroom. At the door, she paused without turning around. "Marcus." "Yes." "The thing you said last night, about building a life that's small enough to protect." She didn't finish. The bathroom door closed. He sat on the edge of the bed for a full minute, staring at the place where her dress lay on the floor. Then he got up, dressed methodically, and left. The drive back to Belfield took 90 minutes. Marcus used every one of them to compartmentalize. He was good at this. When Clara had left, when she'd walked out when Emma was 14 months old and said she wasn't built for motherhood, said it like she was returning a sweater that didn't fit, he'd stood in the doorway holding his daughter and simply recalibrated. Grief later. Structure now. Structure had saved him. The morning routine. Wake at 5:30, prep Emma's lunch, review the day schedule, drop her at Belfield Academy by 7:45. The evening routine. Dinner by 6, bath by 7, story by 7:30, lights out by 8, weekends, the park, the library, groceries. Every hour accounted for, every variable controlled. He did not do chaos. He did not do recklessness. He did not wake up in hotel suites next to billionaires. And yet the fragment that kept surfacing wasn't physical. It wasn't her body, or the heat between them, though he imagined that had been considerable. It was her voice, low and unguarded, saying something about the cost of never being seen. He couldn't place the exact words, but the feeling lingered like a bruise he kept pressing. He pulled into his mother's driveway at 10:15 a.m. The house was small, blue-shuttered, well-maintained. Joan had taken the settlement from the divorce and poured it into this place. It was hers in a way that mattered. Sarah Webb stood on the porch before he reached it, reading glasses perched on her nose, coffee in hand. "She's still asleep," Sarah said. "How was she?" Marcus asked, even though he already knew the answer would be fine. Emma was always fine. Emma was the one thing he'd gotten right. Good. Happy. "Asked about you this morning." Sarah studied him. She had his same gray-blue eyes, the same quiet radar for unspoken information. "You look tired. Late night. Corporate thing." "Ah, Sarah didn't push, which meant she knew there was something to push. You want coffee? Maybe just water. He went to the spare bedroom where Emma slept. She was sprawled diagonally across the twin bed, brown curls wild against the pillow, the stuffed rabbit wedged under her arm. She was 5 years old and already had opinions about everything. He sat on the edge of the bed and placed his hand on her back, felt the small, steady rhythm of her breathing. The world contracted to this room, this child, this heartbeat. Whatever had happened at the Oak Haven Resort belonged to a different universe, one he would not visit again. Monday came soft and gray. Marcus walked into the Thorn Syndicate's Eastern District headquarters at 7:32 a.m. The building was a glass and steel monolith on Broadway. 41 floors of coordinated ambition. He worked on the 9th floor in a cluster of cubicles near the window, running variance analyses on regional shipping data. He liked the work. It was clean, logical. No one asked him to perform enthusiasm. He could disappear into numbers and spreadsheets and pretend the rest of the world didn't exist. His desk was exactly as he'd left it Friday. 3 monitors, a photo of Emma at the beach, gap-toothed and laughing, a single succulent named Gerald that Emma had given him last month, with explicit instructions to keep it alive. He sat down, logged in, and began reviewing weekend data anomalies. By 9 a.m., the first tremor hit. Dennis Caulfield, the analyst in the next cubicle, rolled his chair over. Dennis was 40, perpetually sunburned, treated office gossip like a professional sport. You were at the Oak Haven thing, right? Dennis said. The gala. Yeah. Marcus kept his eyes on his screen. Wild night. Someone told me Selena Thorne was there, like actually mingling. Someone in marketing said she stayed at the resort bar until 2 o'clock in the morning, and she wasn't alone. Marcus didn't look up. It was a company event. Nobody was alone. Right. Dennis leaned in conspiratorially. But this person said she was with a guy from inside the company. Like definitely not a client. He was watching them pretty close. Said they both left the bar around the same time. Gossip, Marcus said. Everyone looks like they're together when you're not paying attention. Dennis shrugged, sensing he wasn't going to get more, and rolled his chair back to his own cubicle. Marcus stared at his monitor for the next hour without processing a single number. An email arrived at 11 a.m. Subject line, Fraternization Policy Reminder. All staff. He read it once, read it again, understood immediately who it was for. He deleted it from his inbox, but his stomach had tightened in a way that didn't ease. By 2 p.m., he'd sent 3 emails and received 15. None of them mentioned the gala, or the bar, or the possibility that anyone had noticed him and Selena leaving the same hallway at the same time. He told himself it was fine. Gossip died like all gossip. By Thursday, someone else would say something ridiculous, and everyone would forget. He almost believed it. The 41st floor of the Thorn Syndicate was a different universe from the 9th. Here, the ceilings were higher, the windows were larger, the silence was profound. Victoria Thorne stood at her office window, looking down at the city, waiting. Elena, her assistant, appeared at 8:15 a.m. with a tablet, and the careful expression of someone carrying bad news. People are talking about Oak Haven, Elena said. Someone from marketing thinks they saw you there. Late, with a junior-level employee. Victoria's hands didn't move. What did they see exactly? You leaving a private room? Around 2 a.m. A pause. Victoria's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. It wasn't a private room, Victoria said. Her voice was ice. It was the hotel bar. Tell anyone who asks that you weren't aware of his presence. Tell them it was a separate group, and you weren't monitoring my personal movements. Elena made a note. Should I? And Elena. Yes. This conversation didn't happen. After Elena left, Victoria stood alone at her window. The city spread below her, all that power, and she was already lying to protect someone who didn't even know she was protecting him. Her phone rang at 9:30 a.m. Robert Ashford, board member rival. The man who'd been waiting since her father's retirement to prove she wasn't capable of running the company. Victoria, we need to talk about the Oak Haven situation, Ashford said. There is no situation. People say a lot of things. None of them are my concern. The board is going to ask questions. We need you to clarify what happened. What happened is that I attended a corporate function. I went to the bar afterward. I socialized with employees. This is what executives do. And you returned to your room alone. The lie sat on her tongue. So easy, so safe. It would solve everything. No, Victoria said instead. I didn't. A beat. Ashford processing this, understanding she wasn't going to make it easy. We'll need to discuss this further, Ashford said. The board will meet Tuesday. Victoria hung up without responding. She sat at her desk, looking at the city through the window. Somewhere down there on the 9th floor, Marcus Webb was probably compartmentalizing, protecting himself, building walls, exactly the way she'd been taught to do. She pulled up the company directory, found his name, Marcus Webb, Regional Variance Division, 9th floor. She stared at it. Then she closed the file. Tuesday afternoon, Victoria found herself taking the elevator down to the 9th floor, not officially, not with a meeting scheduled, or an email announcing her arrival. She simply left her office at 2:30 p.m., rode 32 floors down, and stepped out onto a landscape of cubicles and sleeping monitors. The floor was quiet. Most of the team was probably in meetings or working from home. She could see his desk from the elevator, the one with the lamp that was still on, the photo of Emma, the succulent plant. She walked forward, her flat shoes silent on the carpet. Marcus was hunched over a spreadsheet, one hand on the mouse, the other wrapped around a mug of coffee that had probably gone cold an hour ago. His brow was furrowed with concentration. There was something beautiful about his focus, the way he gave himself completely to the task at hand, whether it was a variance report or a bedtime story for his daughter. She stood at the edge of the cubicle cluster for a moment, watching him. He hadn't heard the elevator. He was entirely absorbed. She walked forward. Her footsteps were soft on the carpet, but he registered the movement and looked up. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She stood 3 feet from his desk in her flat shoes and her wrinkled blazer, her hair slightly undone from a long day, her armor as close to absent as it ever got. He sat in his ergonomic chair with his cold coffee and his spreadsheets, and his quiet, unshakable steadiness. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he replied. "You're always in the building." "Fair," she acknowledged. She looked at Gerald. "He's grown. He's resilient," Marcus said. "Must be the company." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. She felt it like a current. Warm, unexpected, disarming. "Can I sit?" she asked. He rolled Dennis Caulfield's empty chair toward her. She sat. They were close now, close enough that she could smell his soap, something clean and unremarkable, close enough that she could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, evidence of sleepless nights, and squinting at screens, and smiling at a 5-year-old. "How's Emma?" Victoria asked. "She lost another tooth. She's convinced the tooth fairy is running a complex financial operation. She's not wrong." Another silence. But this one was different from all the others. The hotel room, the conference room, the phone calls. This silence wasn't loaded with things unsaid. It was spacious, unhurried. It held room for whatever came next. "I've been thinking," Victoria said slowly, "about something you said. about building a life small enough to protect. I remember. I think I've been doing the opposite, building something so large that I can disappear inside it. And I thought that was strength. But it's not. It's just a more expensive way to hide. He set down his coffee mug. His full attention was on her now, and it was like stepping into sunlight. Warm, direct, almost too much. "What do you want, Victoria?" he asked. She considered the question. Not the boardroom answer. Not the shareholder answer. The real one. "I want to stop hiding," she said. "I want to have dinner with someone who asks me questions they actually want the answer to. I want to sit in a park and hear about squirrel bakeries. I want—" Her voice caught. Barely a hairline fracture in the composure. "I want to be warm." He reached across the space between them and took her hand. His grip was firm. His palm was warm. His fingers were gentle. It was the first time they'd touched since the night they couldn't fully remember, and it was nothing like what she'd imagined. It was better. It was simple. It was just a hand holding hers, saying without words, "I'm here. You're safe. We have time. I'm not going to rush you." "What if I'm terrible at this?" she whispered. "Then we'll be terrible at it together," he said. She laughed, that real unpolished laugh, and he smiled. The sound of it in the empty office was the most human thing either of them had heard in years. She didn't let go of his hand. He didn't pull away. The board conference room occupied the entire northeast corner of the 41st floor. The table was mahogany. The windows overlooked the city like a king surveying his kingdom. 12 leather chairs, only 8 occupied. Robert Ashford sat at Victoria's left, 3 other board members in their usual positions. Thomas Reeves, who'd served with Victoria's father. Margaret Chen, brought in 5 years ago to modernize the board. And Philip Marchand, the newest member. Still learning where the power actually lived. Victoria took her seat at the head of the table. "Thank you for coming on short notice," she said. "I'm sure you've all heard some version of what happened at the Oak Haven event." No one spoke. "I want to address it directly," Victoria continued. "Yes, I spent time with a junior-level employee. Yes, we both returned to the hotel together. Yes, what happened between us is not something either of us planned." Robert Ashford opened his mouth, but Victoria raised a hand. "What I'm here to say is that my personal relationships have zero bearing on my professional judgment. This company's quarterly growth is up 22%. Our retention rates are above industry average. Our client satisfaction scores are the highest in the region. My personal life does not diminish my effectiveness as CEO." Thomas Reeves leaned forward. "Victoria, the concern isn't about your effectiveness. The concern is about protocol. We have explicit policies about relationships between different pay grades. It creates conflicts of interest." "I haven't violated any policies," Victoria said. "We work in different divisions, different reporting structures. There's no conflict of interest. But there is an appearance of impropriety," Margaret Chen said carefully. "And in a company, appearances matter." Victoria stood up. "Here's what I'm going to say, and I need you all to listen carefully. What I do in my personal time is my business. Full stop." She paused. "If you're asking me to lie about it, I'm declining. If you're asking me to distance myself from someone because you're uncomfortable with the hierarchy, that's not a company issue. That's a personal one, and it's not your territory." Robert Ashford's eyes narrowed. This was exactly the moment he'd been waiting for. Victoria making an emotional decision, proving she was unfit for the job. "The board needs assurance." Ashford said that leadership is making sound decisions. "My decisions as a CEO are sound," Victoria said. "My dating decisions are separate. And that's precisely how it should be." She walked toward the door, hand on the frame. "One more thing, Robert. If any board member creates a hostile work environment for that employee because of rumors, I will personally ensure their legal fees bankrupt them. That's not a threat. That's a statement of fact. The door closed behind her. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Ashford looked at Reeves. She's going to choose him. What do we do? Margaret asked. Ashford opened a folder that had been sitting in front of him the entire meeting. HR prepared something. A transfer request. We move Webb to the Chicago division. New team, new leadership. It solves the protocol issue while maintaining his employment. Can we do that without her approval? Philip asked nervously. We're the board, Ashford said. We can do anything. She either accepts it or we make it a corporate restructuring. Frame it as expansion. By the time she objects, it's done. Thomas Reeves nodded slowly. This was how power actually worked. Not through confrontation, but through structural inevitability. Victoria sat at her desk with her hands shaking. She'd just publicly confirmed the relationship, defied the board directly, threatened litigation, made Robert Ashford her enemy. The weight of it settled in her chest like a stone. She could call Marcus, text him. But what would she say? I just risked my company's trust for you, and you don't even know that wasn't love. That was insanity. But she couldn't take it back. She could only live with the consequences. She looked at the closed door, the city beyond the windows. All of it was suddenly so expensive, and so empty. She picked up her phone, started to dial his extension. Stopped. Put the phone down. Not yet. Not until she'd decided what it meant. Not until she was ready to choose something other than safety. Marcus stepped out of the bathroom on the 9th floor. Selena was standing by the window overlooking the courtyard, 20 feet away. Not supposed to be here. Not on his floor, not visible. He froze. She turned. For one beat, their eyes locked. Just one, long enough for him to see. She'd been crying, or close to it. Her hair was slightly undone. Her blazer had a wrinkle that shouldn't be there. She looked like she'd been in a battle, and she'd lost. She walked past him without speaking. Their shoulders nearly touched. The air between them was electric. He closed his eyes for a second. Caught the perfume. That hotel perfume. His whole body recognized it before his mind did. When he opened his eyes, she was pressing the elevator button, not looking back. He stood there for 30 seconds, hands clenched at his sides, trying to understand what had happened between Tuesday morning and now. The email arrived on both their screens at exactly 7 a.m. Wednesday morning. Subject fraternization policy reminder. All staff. To ensure we maintain professional boundaries and avoid conflicts of interest, please review the attached updated fraternization guidelines. All relationships between employees of different pay grades must be reported to Human Resources within 5 business days. Failure to disclose may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Marcus read it once, read it again, understood immediately who it was for. He deleted it from his inbox, but his stomach had tightened in a way that didn't ease for an hour. On the 41st floor, Victoria was approving the same email to send company-wide. She was creating distance, creating a paper trail, creating the appearance of professional conduct. But sending it felt like a lie. Marcus was on the elevator going to the parking garage. Elena entered at floor 15 with files. Heading out for the day. Long day, she asked. Making conversation. Always, Marcus said. Selena was in meetings until an hour ago. Board stuff. She looked absolutely exhausted. I've never seen her like that. Elena paused, then added carefully, like she was fighting about something. The doors closed at floor 6. As the elevator descended, Marcus understood. Elena had just told him something without saying it directly. Priya was protective of her boss, if she was hinting at a struggle. Then Victoria hadn't just folded. She'd fought. He stood in the garage for 5 minutes after the elevator doors opened, processing this. Victoria sat at her floor-to-ceiling windows, looking at the city. She had a drink in her hand and no memory of pouring it. Somewhere down there, Marcus was going home to his daughter. Somewhere down there, Emma was safe. Somewhere down there, there was a small life that didn't require board approval or shareholder confidence. She thought about what he'd said in the cubicle. Some jobs are about the work, and some are about what the work lets you do. She'd built a company for 9 years, and she'd been extremely good at building it. She'd filled the building with people and technology and purpose and the specific satisfactions of winning. But she hadn't understood until this moment that she'd been trying to do something with all of it that none of it could actually do. She couldn't make a company fool her, the way a child's observation could. She couldn't make an office warm her, the way a hand held in the dark would. She sat alone in the penthouse until 11 p.m. Then she went to bed and lay awake, understanding that she'd built a cage and called it a kingdom. Wednesday morning, Marcus's phone rang at 2:15 p.m. His mother's voice on the other end. "Emma's school just called. She has a fever. They won't let her stay. Can you pick her up?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "I'm on my way." He told his manager he was taking the rest of the day, left immediately. There was never any discussion about it. If Emma needed him, nothing else existed. By 3:45 p.m., he was back at the office. Emma was sitting in Dennis Caulfield's rolling chair, swinging her legs, her backpack beside her. She was warm to the touch. She had the specific lassitude of a sick 5-year-old, cooperative but tired. Her usual chattiness dimmed by fever and discomfort. Marcus explained to his manager that he was taking her home. The manager waved him off. Everyone on the team knew Marcus was a good father. No one was going to begrudge him leaving early for his daughter. As they were walking toward the elevator, Emma spotted someone. "Daddy, is that your boss lady?" Emma asked. He turned. Victoria was walking from the opposite direction, 20 feet away, not looking at them, about to pass them entirely. Marcus caught Victoria's eye, watched her pause, watch her take in the scene. Him in work clothes, Emma in school clothes but flushed with fever, the stuffed rabbit still in her backpack. Then Emma did what Emma always did. She waved, full-armed, full-hearted, like she was hailing a ship. "Hi," Emma called out. Victoria stopped. She looked at Emma, then at Marcus, then back at Emma again. Victoria walked toward them. "Do you?" Victoria asked Emma. "Know who I am?" "You're the boss lady," Emma said seriously. "Daddy said you listen good. Like actually listening. He said most people don't. They just wait for their turn to talk." Marcus felt heat rise up his neck. "Emma, we should go. You're not feeling well." But Victoria was looking at his daughter like she was seeing something rare and strange, something she'd been searching for without knowing it. "What's your name?" Victoria asked. "Emma. I have a fever." "That's unfortunate," Victoria said. "Daddy has to take me home." "But you could come. We're making soup." Marcus opened his mouth to intervene, but Victoria was smiling. Not the boardroom smile, a real one. "Soup sounds nice," Victoria said. Emma considered this with the seriousness she applied to most information. Dad's good at making things taste good even when they're not fancy. He says that's what real cooking is, making something matter even when it's small. Victoria looked at Marcus across the top of Emma's head. Something shifted in her expression. A door opening, a realization landing. "Victoria, I like that philosophy." An employee walked by, saw the three of them standing together, got uncomfortable, moved faster. Emma didn't notice. She was coughing into her sleeve, tired and feverish. "Marcus, Emma, we really need to go." But Victoria was kneeling down to Emma's eye level. "I hope you feel better, and I hope your dad makes you wonderful soup." Emma nodded solemnly. You could come next time. Really? We could make extra. Victoria stood. I'll think about that. She walked toward the elevator. Emma called after her. Serious. It's a standing invitation. Victoria paused at the elevator. Didn't turn around. Pressed the button. As the doors closed, she allowed herself one look back. Marcus had his hand on Emma's back. Emma was leaning against him, exhausted and sick and entirely trusting, and Victoria realized, this is what he protects. This is the life she's been afraid to want. Not a rescue fantasy, not a man saving her, but the possibility of being part of something real, something ordinary, something warm. Victoria had been thinking about Emma all evening. The way she spoke about her father like he was a hero. The way she offered to teach Victoria about soup and showing up, and the specific mathematics of a small life. She realized, I'm alone, all the time, by choice, by design, by necessity, and I'm dying. She didn't sleep that night. She sat in the dark with a cup of tea, understanding that she'd built everything wrong, built toward the wrong goal, built in the wrong direction. And she understood something else. She was going to choose him. She was going to risk everything, because a sick child had shown her what she'd been running from. Victoria came down from the 41st floor at exactly 6 p.m. She was still in her work clothes, but she'd removed her heels. Flat shoes. Her blazer was wrinkled from being worn all day. Her hair was coming undone. The CEO was gone. What remained was just a woman who looked like she'd been to war. She was walking toward Marcus's cubicle when Robert Ashford stepped out of the elevator. He saw her immediately, saw where she was going. Ashford walked toward her, and his expression was almost triumphant. He'd been waiting for this moment. Victoria making an emotional decision, proving she was unfit. Victoria Ashford said, "We need to discuss the transfer." She turned toward him. Her jaw tightened. "Not here." "The board met again after you left, Monday," Ashford said. Loud enough for nearby employees to hear. Loud enough for Marcus, who had looked up from his spreadsheet to understand exactly what was happening. "We've prepared a transfer request. Your junior analyst will be reassigned to the Chicago division. New team, new leadership. This solves the protocol issue." Marcus watched her face. She hadn't looked at him, but she knew he was listening. "That's not a choice," Victoria said quietly. "That's coercion. It's called protecting the company. And protecting you." Ashford stepped closer. "Because if this continues, the press will have a field day. CEO dates junior employee. Your father built this company. You're about to destroy it over someone beneath your pay grade." Something hardened in Victoria's expression. First, Victoria said, "Don't ever speak about him that way again." Second, "I told you on Tuesday what would happen if the board moved against him. You're not in a position to make threats. I'm exactly in a position to make threats. I'm the CEO. I own 23% of this company. I control the board votes on executive compensation. I can shut down this entire operation if I choose to." She paused. "And I'm choosing right now. If you transfer him, I resign. Effective immediately. Severance. Everything I built, I'm walking. And then I'm going to spend the next 5 years making sure everyone knows why." Ashford's face went red. "You can't." "Watch me." Victoria turned and walked toward the elevator. She didn't look at Marcus. Couldn't look at him, because if she did, she'd lose her nerve. The elevator doors opened. She stepped in. The doors closed. Ashford stood in the middle of the 9th floor, breathing hard, understanding that he'd lost. Marcus's computer dinged. Email from the Chicago division lead. "Welcome to the team. Start date Monday. Relocation package available upon request." He read it 3 times. The words didn't change. His stomach dropped. He looked at the photo of Emma, then at Gerald the succulent, then at the space where she'd been standing just minutes before. By 6:30 p.m., he'd begun to pack. Photos first. Then the plant. Then the personal items he'd accumulated over 3 years of working here. A coffee mug Emma had made him, a birthday card from Sarah with a $20 bill taped inside. By 6:45 p.m., his cubicle was empty. He was holding the box of desk items, trying to figure out how to feel about this, when the elevator dinged again. The elevator doors opened to the 9th floor. Victoria walked out. She was still in the wrinkled blazer. Flat shoes, hair completely undone now. The CEO was gone completely. What remained was vulnerability. Marcus stood frozen, holding the box. Victoria walked toward him. Her hands were shaking. "I told the board no," she said. He didn't move. "I told them I wasn't accepting their conditions. I told them that if they transferred you, I would walk. Resignation, severance, everything I've built, I told them I would walk from it." Marcus. "You shouldn't have done that." Victoria. "I know. I did it anyway." She stopped in front of him. "Victoria, because I realized something. The board can't make me choose between you and them because I already chose. I chose you on Tuesday in that meeting room. I've been choosing you every hour since. So this isn't a choice anymore. This is just admitting what I've already decided." She was so close now that he could smell the perfume mixed with the specific scent of her exhaustion. "Victoria, your daughter doesn't need a fairy tale. She needs her father to be happy. And I think maybe he could be happy with someone who's trying to learn what that looks like." Marcus set down the box. He reached across the space between them and took her hands. His grip was firm. Her hands were shaking, but he was solid and still and present. "I've been thinking about what you said," she continued, "about building a life small enough to protect. I think I want that. I think I've always wanted that. I just didn't know it was possible." He brought her hands to his chest. "It's possible," he said. They sat in the empty office at dusk. Victoria in Dennis Caulfield's rolling chair, Marcus in his own. The city glittered beyond the windows, cold and vast and indifferent. A long silence, not awkward. Spacious, unhurried. It held room for whatever came next. "I've been building something so large that I could disappear inside it," Victoria said slowly, "and I thought that was strength. But it's not. It's just a more expensive way to hide." Marcus set down his cold coffee mug. His full attention was on her. "I want to stop hiding," she continued. "I want to have dinner with someone who asks me real questions. I want to sit in a park and hear about squirrel bakeries. I want to be warm." Her voice caught. Barely a hairline fracture, but real. Marcus reached across the space between them and took her hand. His grip was firm. His palm was warm. His fingers were gentle. It was the first time they'd touched since that night in the hotel, and it was nothing like either of them had imagined. It was better. It was simple. It was just presence saying without words. "I'm here. You're safe. We have time," Victoria cried. Not dramatic. Not performative. Just a quiet overflow of pressure released. Something inside her that had been held at pressure for so long that the release was as simple and involuntary as breathing. He didn't react with alarm. He didn't try to fix it. He simply held her hand and let her be exactly what she was in that moment. Not a CEO, not a fortress, not a legend, just a woman sitting in a cubicle on the 9th floor, learning what it felt like to be seen without consequence. After a while, she wiped her eyes with her free hand and took a breath. "Okay," she said. "Okay. Okay." She looked at him. Really looked at him. With all the analytical power she usually reserved for balance sheets and strategic forecasts. She saw his strength, not the physical kind, though that was there too, but the structural kind, the kind that held a life together, the kind that bent without breaking. "Victoria, I want you to know something. That night in the jacket situation when I gave you my jacket because you were cold, that wasn't nothing. I did that because I wanted you to be warm. Marcus squeezed her hand gently. I know, he said. Victoria, there's something else. About the board, about what's going to happen next. I need you to understand that I'm not doing this because I think I can save you, or because you need saving. I'm doing this because I've spent 41 years building walls, and I'm tired. I'm so tired of being afraid. Marcus, what do you want to do? Victoria, I want to have dinner with you, somewhere quiet, somewhere no one from the company goes. I want to bring Emma. I want to see what it looks like when all three of us are in the same room. Marcus, there's a place in Belfield, the Noodle Church. Emma calls it that because of the way the pasta shapes remind her of religious architecture. Victoria, that's perfect. Marcus Friday, 7 p.m. Victoria Friday, 7 p.m. She stood, smoothed her blazer, and looked down at him one last time. The CEO mask was off. What remained was something rarer. A woman choosing deliberately, and with full awareness of the cost, to be vulnerable. Thank you for that night, she said, for not wanting anything. I did want something, Marcus said. I wanted you to be warm. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his shoulder. He was solid and still and present. She rested there for a moment, feeling the rise and fall of his breathing, the extraordinary ordinariness of human closeness. When she pulled back, her eyes were clear. Friday, she said. The Noodle Church. 7 p.m. I'll be there, Marcus said. She walked toward the elevator, her flat shoes silent on the carpet. At the threshold, she turned back. He was watching her. Steady, patient, unafraid. She smiled. Not the boardroom smile, the real one. Then she stepped into the elevator, and the doors closed, and Marcus sat in the lamplight and thought about the strange, terrifying, magnificent mathematics of the human heart, how it could calculate risk and return, probability and loss, and still, after everything, choose to remain open. He picked up his phone and texted his mother. Mom, can you watch Emma Friday night? Sarah responded in 12 seconds. About time. He picked up the box he'd been packing and put it back on his desk. Then he shut down his computer and went home. Thursday morning arrived soft and clear. Marcus placed Emma's photograph on the corner of his desk, the one from his pocket. Finally given a proper home. Emma at 7. Holding up a drawing of something that might be a horse, or might be a herpist's field notes, gap-toothed and unself-conscious, entirely certain that whatever she was showing him was worth showing. He looked at it for 3 seconds, then he sat down, opened his laptop, and began his work. At 8:45 a.m., the elevator dinged. Victoria stepped out carrying a small leather bag. Inside the bag was everything that mattered from her 41st floor office. Resignation papers signed, severance negotiated, a new life, packaged and ready. She walked to his cubicle. He looked up from his spreadsheet. She sat in Dennis Caulfield's empty chair. Hi, she said. Hi, he replied. I quit, she said. He set down his coffee. You didn't have to do that. I know. I did it anyway. She looked around the office. The clean lines, the good furniture, the window wall with the city beyond it. I realized I've been building the wrong things for the wrong reasons. I've been so focused on proving I could run a company that I forgot to ask if I wanted to run it. Marcus, what do you want to do? Victoria, I have no idea. And for the first time in 20 years, that doesn't terrify me. She looked at him, really looked at him, with all the clarity she could muster. Victoria, I want to have dinner with you. And I want to bring Emma to that dinner. And I want to see what happens when we're all in the same room, when I'm not performing, when I'm just here. Outside, the city glittered, cold, vast, indifferent. But in this small circle of light, between a succulent named Gerald and a photo of a gap-toothed girl, the world felt exactly the right size. Marcus stood and took her hand. "Let's go get Emma," he said. Friday at 7 p.m. The three of them sat at a small table in a corner restaurant in Belfield. It was the kind of place that had been there forever. Red checkered tablecloth, strings of lights, the smell of garlic and butter and possibility. Emma had named it the Noodle Church years ago, and the name had stuck. Not officially, but in the way that mattered, in the way that meant something. Emma was explaining, with serious 7-year-old authority, why the green shoes were the correct choice. The color of a specific frog she'd seen at the Natural History Museum, relevant to her herpist career plans, or her systems engineer plans, or both. Since Dad said you could be anything twice. Victoria was listening like Emma's words were balance sheets worth millions. She asked questions. She waited for answers. She gave Emma the gift of genuine attention. The thing she'd learned from Marcus. The thing she'd been starving for her entire life. Emma finding a kindred spirit in this woman who actually cared what she thought. Bloomed. The noodles arrived. Emma ordered extra. Victoria ate them. Emma declared with the authority of a child who'd done the analysis. "You're good at this. Simple. Unremarkable to the world. Extraordinary to them." Marcus watched his daughter. And this woman who'd risked everything, learning how to be a family. He watched Victoria's hands shake slightly as she twirled pasta on her fork. Not from fear, but from the specific vulnerability of being present, of being seen, of allowing someone else to matter. He watched Emma lean against Victoria's shoulder when she got tired, and he watched Victoria's eyes go wet. "I think Emma said seriously, around a mouthful of noodles, you should come to dinner every Friday." "I'd like that very much," Victoria said. And so it would be. Every Friday at the Noodle Church. Emma ordering noodles, Marcus cooking soup on Sunday afternoons in his small kitchen, Victoria learning to fold laundry, and tie shoes, and say, "I don't know," without shame. She would resign from the board entirely. She would take a consulting job that paid well enough and demanded little enough. She would spend her time learning what it meant to build a life instead of an empire. Some people carry their value in titles and credentials, and the rooms they're allowed to enter. Others carry it in the smile on their daughter's face. When you finally show up, in the hand held in the dark, in the quiet, steady presence of someone who knows how to stay. The city didn't care which version they chose, but in the lamplight at the Noodle Church, with Emma between them, and pasta cooling on the plate, they understood something the city never would. They understood that real power isn't something you build for yourself. It's something you build with someone else. And that's worth everything. If this story moved you, subscribe to our channel for more original fiction stories about real connection, quiet strength, and the courage it takes to let someone in. New stories drop regularly. Until next time.